it's been a benefit in a lot of different ways when it comes to being an actor, because right before the lockdown happened, I was planning on moving out to LA to just give my shot and, go into episodic season and see what I can do, because one of my agents said that's the best thing you can do is just go out there for 3 months, see what happens. If not, you can always move back. Well, the lockdown happened. I couldn't do that. But because of everything that happened with COVID, it pushed the industry into what we are now, which is doing all virtual auditions. So it's been beneficial on that specific note, but it also has opened up the competition. So it's been good, pros and cons. But the other bad thing I wouldn't say bad thing, but the more challenging thing is a lot of the network television shows are requiring vaccination, and I'm not against the vaccine, but I have a medical and religious exemption, and I'm just a little too hesitant to get the vaccine right now, even though the network television shows are saying that they will accept religious and medical exemptions. But I have a family history of blood clots. Just lost a friend to a blood clot in the lungs, and I don't know if it was because of the vaccine or whatnot, but the vaccine has been known that is one of the side effects. I don't know how prevalent it is, but just because of that history in my family, and because of some other medical stuff, I'm just extremely hesitant to do that, but praying through it. And if it comes across, I just got cast in another movie that's going to be shooting in Romania. So if I have to go out there to do that, I'm contemplating just to do it for the whole convenience purposes. But we'll see.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with Nicholas Rice, who resides in Dallas, Texas. He's known for his lead role in The Place in Between and also starring in the upcoming action film Preemptive Strike, which, again, we are here to talk about that today, and we're going to dive in without question a whole lot deeper on that film. Stand by. We'll be right back.
Hey, you guys. I'm Venus Monique from the hit crime drama Vindication, and you guys should definitely make sure you're catching the Maurice Brown Show on Roku TV.
Welcome back, everybody. You're on the Maurice Brown Show. We've got my main man, Nicholas Rice, as you had an opportunity to get an idea of what it's like during the pandemic from Nick's point of view, and I've been going through the same type of things. But today, Nick, we are here to talk about your film, Preemptive Strike, which is going to be an excellent film, an action film from a faith-based perspective. Tell us a little bit about Preemptive Strike, Nicholas.
Sure. Yeah. The story behind it is I actually wrote it during the lockdown, because we all had plenty of time. So I finished up writing a book that we got published last year that was on my own personal book. And then after I finished that up, I started writing the script. I actually had a dream about one of the scenes, and then I translated that dream into a scene on paper, and then we built the story around that. And it's you say faith-based, it is faith-based, but it's more underlying faith-based. It's seriously in your, because we want to reach a more vast and wide audience.
Yeah.
It could potentially be rated R because it's military, it's UFC, and it's superhero. And we wrote it to be gritty, but not so much on the side of it would deter people from coming to the theater because, certain words are said, or, there's no GDs, there's no F-bombs or anything of that nature. There is cussing in it because, it's a military movie. It's a UFC movie. This is the kind of life that these people live.
Yes.
But if I had to kind of give you a synopsis of the story, this might be giving away a little bit of the pie, but it's a superhero story based on 7 different superheroes, but you will only see 4 in this movie. And all 7 superheroes get their superpowers from the 7 archangels. We wrote these angels to be 9 feet tall, 40-foot wingspans, big, beautiful, and terrifying all at the same time. So,
well, my good acting buddy Michael Patterson definitely approves. I don't know if you've ever met Michael before or not, but excellent actor. He's been in a lot of. Matter of fact, we were in the film Love Different together with Jen Gotzen in 2016. It was an honor for me to be with him. But listen. I'm going to tell you, Nicholas, to me, it's faith-based because, there's a certain level of reality that we as Christians fail to acknowledge, and it's not the end of the world. Then you're not going to go to hell because you're dealing with what's actually happening. The point is, where are we going with this? Because there are a lot of people out there in the quote-unquote trenches spiritually that need to be pulled out and rescued, man. And so I as far as I'm concerned, Nicholas, it's faith-based for me, man. And I love the idea. I love it. And the action part. And I know you're a great guy. I mean, you're a man of God, dude. I already know that. So I know the film's going to a great place. And I'm excited about it. I think that, Nicholas, the faith-based world needs more of these types of films where there's a lot of action, there's superheroes involved. We need to, as a stand-up comedian by trade, I definitely, would love to see more comedies in the faith-based world. It's like, come on, man. I mean, we all got to loosen up here. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Church People, directed by Christopher Sean Shaw, that stars Thor Ramsey. Very, very funny film, and it's just making light of the present state of affairs with mega churches and so forth. But it's just a funny film, and so anyway, I love what you're doing, Nick, and I can't wait until we actually see this film. Now, director Brent Ryan Green has worked on over 60 projects for film and TV, who's a part of your film, throughout his career, and most recently directed the second unit for the upcoming feature film Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid. And I had the chance to see Dennis Quaid at the NRB in Grapevine, Texas over the summer as they were talking about that film coming up. But Brent is a part of that. What was it like working with Brent, Nicholas?
Honestly, we're still working on it because we haven't started pre-production yet. But Brent's been great to work with. He read the script, and his first response to me was, "Nick, I couldn't put it down. I love the story. I love what it's trying to be." And the great thing about when you have something is whenever an experienced person in the industry says that, and then I also give the script to someone who's not in the industry at all, and they say the exact same thing.
Yes.
And so they're like, I wasn't planning on reading this all night, but I just wanted to read it to support you. And when I started reading, I couldn't put it down. It was that a writer loves to hear that. Got something. But he loves what it's trying to be because it kind of give you a little bit more of the story. The first one, like I said, is not in your face. That's why we kind of call it underlying faith-based. But the second one is. The second one is basically the other side of the story. So it's the same movie, but it's on the spiritual side. So the second movie starts actually in the heavenly realms with the Archangel Michael training the Archangel Gabriel because, Michael's more of the warrior / defender. Gabriel's more the steward and the messenger. So Michael, knowing that God's about to anoint him with this task of taking the 7 archangels with the legion of angels to go down and anoint the new generation of heroes, or we call them the anointed. So you see this big epic, it just starts out in this big epic battle training scene in the heavenly realms, and then the archangels are called into the throne room, and as the archangels enter, they enter in a V-shaped formation, and this is a scene that I really want to see come to life. As they enter, it's the throne room, so it's light emanating everywhere. Obviously the light of the throne is something no earthly or even created being, including the angels, can't really take. So what happens whenever the angels go in this V-shaped formation, Gabriel expands his wings. And remember, this is a 40-foot wingspan, and then they separate on each side into 3. And as they kneel, 2 wings go to cover their face, 2 wings go to cover their body, and 2 wings go to cover their feet as they kneel because they can't handle the light.
Wow.
And as they're kneeling, then God addresses them and anoints them. And then, the scene goes on with Lucifer coming in, trying to, he wants to ask permission to do exactly the same thing with that God is anointing the angels to do. He wants to anoint his own champion, And so it's kind of a, you see glimpses of like the cherubim and the seraphim, but then, the glimpses of Job on how Satan came into the throne and asked to, persecute Job because he thought Job actually got God, and so it's got all these different references, even though it's completely fiction. completely. But it's got all these underlying undertones. And as the angels are leaving the throne room, then you see Jesus come over, talk to Gabriel, and then anoint all of the 7 archangels to go down and anoint these new heroes, these new generation of heroes. And we wrote it as a legacy too, so you can actually tie it back to, like, say, David's mighty men. I don't know if you heard about them, but they're the baddest of the bad, and his 3 generals of his 30 mighty men, they were just unheard of awesome in battle. One guy said he killed so many people that his sword grew to his hand. One guy killed 800 people with a spear. Another guy was left in battle and won the battle. Like, everybody deserted him, and he won the battle by himself. So it's a great story that we're very anxious to see come to light. But the first one, we like to call it's a secular movie based off the Bible, is how we like to say it.
Okay. Well, I love the idea. And, the thing about it is, I think that as, you're putting this, and we'll get deeper into the budget for this film. I think it's a $10 million budget that you guys are looking at approximately. And what the faith-based world needs is more funding to produce solid films, which is why the world has a hard time taking us seriously, because we're not dealing with a lot of funding, and if you don't have enough funding, you're not going to get great writers, you're not going to get great actors, you're not going to be able to pay quality cameramen, and so on and so on and so forth. You can have a great heart, but we need to step our game up in that regard, and clearly Preemptive Strike is making a strong push to do that. I'm definitely going to keep you guys prayed up. If you look at a film like The Matrix, there was like an underlying understanding that this was about Christ. It was just a different way to approach the storytelling of it. Lord of the Rings, same deal. C.S. Lewis, Narnia, same deal. And that's what you guys are doing in Preemptive Strike. I love it. And it's all about, because there's a whole other world out there, Nicholas, that we aren't aware of, that's right there.
Right.
And we are a manifestation of that world we can't see. We're a manifestation of that. And it's more real than what we're seeing. And so the fact that, you're willing to delve into this and bring it to film. Man, I want to see more works like that on film. Because the honest truth is, what's happening, the fighting, the actual battles that are going on in the spirit, dude, is pretty wicked.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
God's angels and the demonic forces, they're getting down, man.
I agree.
They are rumbling. And so I love the fact that you guys are willing to kind of just, test it and just put it on screen. And, using your imagination and making it attractive to, the world, so they can come out and see your project. It's entertainment. Nicholas, it's entertainment. So we have to be able to.
I agree.
Yeah, we have to create content that people want to come out and see. Michael Patterson says this is a very interesting script to read. Gideonite and Davidic champs all combined with God's angels. Epic. And you know what? I'll say this too. If you think about, and you alluded to this earlier, Nicholas, about David's men. These guys, they didn't lose, man. They were on arguably the longest winning streak in the history of battle. These guys were dominant, and that's I akin that to just pure, flat out faith in God. Agreed.
Yeah, it's an unwavering faith, is what it is, and that's the kind of faith that me and my team have in this project, because we know it's anointed by God. We know it's going to do well, and we're met by opposition. That's not. It's not like we are unaware that that's going to happen. Whenever we go to distribution companies and, people are interested, people are not interested. Like, we just got a pass from someone in the UK as the #2 movie on Netflix. And, that they're probably not a good fit whenever they don't understand the religious side. Because when I talk to people like you who know the spiritual side of things, they get excited. And they're like, oh, that needs to happen. And this story needs to be told, type of thing. And it's a prevailing thought of Christian cinema needs to make a change. We stop being so preachy. Let's tell real stories. Let's
Yep.
get gritty, because it is a gritty thing that happens out there. Like I know plenty of firm believers that they've gone through the muck, man, and those are good stories to tell, and they want to tell them in front of that, but you have to tell it in a truthful way. You can't sit there and censor it, other than a few, like there's some things that just need to be left to the imagination. But you can say a cuss word, but I'm a firm believer in talking how the people talk when it comes to writing those characters. But I'm not going to take the Lord's name in vain. I'm not going to do that. Regardless if it's dialogue or in real life, I'm just not going to do that. But there was one time I had to do a scene in acting class where someone chose it, and it was a gritty scene, F-bombs left and right. And this was the first time I was actually coming to class and doing this. Well, there was one time through the whole scene that my character said word Jesus and then the F-bomb, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. And all I did was say the F-bomb, and it translated fine.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the class, my acting coach, Glenn Morshower, by the way, he's a very prominent actor in the industry. He said, Nick, I just take a moment and tell you, I know you're a man of principle. I don't think he's a believer. And I know you have your principles and beliefs, but that seemed very natural, and so you came off as the character, which was great. And honestly, bro, growing up in a Christian household, doing that scene was very freeing.
Yeah.
And I loved it, because being an actor, you have to get up and strip all self, which is one of the purest forms of humility.
Yep.
You have to get up and you have to do some other character. You have to get completely out of your comfort zone. It's amazing, man. I love this industry. I love what I'm doing. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when it comes to the script that we wrote, I have a big place in my heart for when it comes to pride and humility. I even wrote a book about it. It's called Overcoming the Silent Pride Within. You can get it on Amazon. And it just talks about being able to see things from other people's perspective other than your own. And if you cannot actually just make that effort, then you're always going to be this selfish, prideful person, because you don't think anybody should think any way other than how you think. Right. And so the way we wrote this script, and the main character is, when it comes to these superheroes, their powers are tied to their level of pride and level of humility. So the more prideful and arrogant they are, they have hardly any access to the power. But the more humble and non-self-centered they are, the more they are about people, then no one can beat them.
Yes.
It's a great tie-in, and of course the story of this new UFC fighter coming into making a drastic career change from cells into UFC fighting. In his first fight, he gets anointed by the archangel, and he comes into these superpowers. Of course, he's shocked that he has these powers, but then over the course of the next 9 fights, he becomes more and more prideful and arrogant in his power, instead of being humble of how God's bringing him in. And of course, he gets to the champ, and he loses badly to the champ. Okay. And then he has to come into a place of humility. And of course, you see this story unfold that way.
Amen. I love it, man. And that's a microcosm of what it's all about in reality. I mean, we get prideful. It sneaks in before we realize it. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And sometimes by the time you realize it, it's too late. So that's a great way to bring that out. I had an opportunity. We spoke briefly before we went on live about some auditions and just some things you just won't compromise. I did an audition where I changed a word. I was supposed to cuss, and I just used it for another word, which they both meant the same thing. It just wasn't a quote unquote curse word, and it may or may not have cost me the audition. It was for a secular project, and I just chose to not use the word. And sometimes it can cost you in this business if you don't do it the way that they want to do it. Writers are funny. They write it down. They want everything that they write said. And but you got to stick to your principles, man. And God will honor that. And if you don't get it, that wasn't the door God wanted you to go through.
Agreed. Yeah. And we're going across, going after distributors and going after investors. And, we have a meeting tomorrow with someone who is one of the acquisition people at PureFlix and Sony. And so that
Yeah.
could possibly be, you know, like a PureFlix original, but she also has connections to Netflix, and Netflix is all about the artist keeping all creative control. That way they can get their vision across. So we have, you know, people out there working on it, and we're getting investors and, you know, people, but it's people that believe in the project. They believe in that, you know, this needs to happen, because we get a lot of hesitation from people that see it, that are a part of like Spawn Films and big distribution companies out there, because they see a $10.6 million budget and they don't see any big names attached.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We have lead roles that we're going after, big names, but we can't get big names without money. And then the money is like, oh, we don't want to give you money without big names. And I'm like, hey, come on. One thing has to happen. And I think the best thing we can do is you give us money in escrow, and then we go after the name and get the contract. Like that, we can go after the name. That's an easy thing to do. We can't go after them without money. So yeah, it's
very true. Very true. Now, I mean, you are not just the lead actor in this film. You wrote the film, and you did so along with Nikki Dixon. You produced and starred in the film, like I was saying. And what was it like, Nick, wearing so many different hats? Or what is it like wearing so many different hats?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's an ability to wear so many different hats, but there is a cutoff point. Like, so it's not that hard to be a producer, writer, and lead actor, or one of the leads. That's not hard, because those are like sequential. So like you write it, then you produce it, then you act in it. But the thing that's going to be the hardest to do is if you want to do all of it. So writer, producer, actor, director, like if you want to do all of that, that's where it gets tricky. It's only because, you know, it's hard to be a lead actor and a director on set. And whenever we were going to the people who packaged the movie with the pitch deck and everything, their name is Buffalo 8. When we went to them and then we had our first conference call with them, they said, oh, I'm guessing since you're the writer, you want to direct it? And I was like, heck no. I want to hire somebody more qualified. And so we did. We went through so many directors, bro. We got connected. I mean, we even got the script into Michael Bay's hands. And Michael Bay liked the script. I believe his exact words were, and I don't have this written down or can prove it or anything like that, because it was through my manager that we got this. But he said, I like your script. I just wish you would have came to me sooner. And I guarantee you the only reason he like humored reading the script is because one of his good friends is cast as one of the leads.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's amazing. Yeah.
Glenn Morshower is going to be the main antagonist, which is the main bad guy. And Glenn Morshower and Michael Bay are really good friends. And so I guarantee he saw Glenn on the pitch deck and he's like, okay, I'll give this a read. You know? I don't know if that's how it went down, but that's how I think it went down.
Well, it really does look like it's going to be a fantastic film, and to get the funding for this, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think it needs to get more visibility. More people need to be made aware of your project, and I pray it happens, man, because the script looks really good. The idea is great, and I think that getting some quality actors involved is only going to draw even more attention to the film, and that's what people need to do. They need to come out and see what you're doing. How long did it take you to actually, Nicholas, write the script and then put the project into action?
The writing of the script, that will be going on until the end of shooting. When it comes to like an actual draft that we can work with, I think it was about 22 rewrites that we had to go through. And Nikki was awesome. Wow. Like the first draft that I had was 65 pages long, and it was not good. But I sent it to Nikki. Nikki read it and said, Nick, you need to change this. You're telling too much story in the narratives. You need to tell most of the story in the character dialogue. And I was like, okay. So I changed all that, and then it got up to about 90 pages, which is around industry standard. And so once we did that, Nikki is a genius when it comes to cleaning up dialogue and making it sound real, and so she spent hours and days with me on Zoom meetings, because it's in the height of the pandemic, so no one wants to meet up like that. So she spent hours with me on Zoom, just looking at it, and we're sharing the screen, she's changing it, and then she would send me the final copy whenever we got done for that day, and then we get on another call the next day, and she would do the same thing, like hours and days. Man, it was so generous of her. I paid her money that I could pay her, but
Yeah.
she's like, no,
Yeah.
I'll just take some credit on the back end. I'm like, no, I'm gonna write you a lead role. And so I wrote her a lead role to the main character. She's the top UFC trainer is how we wrote her.
Okay.
And she's also one of the heroes. And so she doesn't know it until you won't know it about her until the sequel.
Okay. Dude, I'll tell you right now, Nicholas, it takes a ton of patience and, again, intentionality and purpose to do this. I mean, from start to finish, because I've got some ideas for a script. I just haven't had the guts to actually sit down and put pen to paper and just like really try to meet it out. And it's all about spiritual warfare.
Agreed.
I mean, there's so much you can do with that and then, colliding it with the actual world that we live in. I have a great idea, man, and I just haven't had, again, the guts to sit down and tackle this thing because it's so much involved, and God bless you for just deciding, hey, look, I'm going to do this. It's a godly idea, and, you just decided. And when you said, your first draft was 65 pages, and
froze up.
I'm sorry. We had a glitch there. You said 22 rewrites?
At that time, that's when it's actually currently at 24 rewrites.
Man.
But at the time, we went to a decision of, okay, it's where it needs to be. We can start packaging it. We can start getting the pitch deck together, all that other stuff. And those are around 22 rewrites. Yeah. The way it worked out, man, I was actually making those changes that Nikki suggested me making those changes. And when I was doing that, I was at the gym that I was managing.
Okay.
And somebody walked in inquiring about gym membership, and he just happened to be a WGA award-winning writer. And he also teaches at KD Conservatory in Dallas. And so he saw me what I was doing. He saw what I was doing, and he said, hey, I offer services for analysis and coverage. Analysis means he would go through the whole script, just line by line, looking for grammatical or formatting mistakes. And then coverage means he would go through, look for plot mistakes, or, so how the story can improve and stuff like that. So I went through him probably about, I want to say 5 to 7 coverage and analysis, passes is what he did.
Yeah.
And that he was, on point with suggesting everything. Like, because right now we also have a lead role in the movie. His name is Michael. And his character is based off my best friend, Michael. And so we wrote him as an ex-Navy SEAL, but it actually starts in Afghanistan 10 years prior to the story starting with Gabe, which is the lead character. And his SEAL team is actually trying to go save a group of girls that were kidnapped for sex trafficking. So they're over there and they're doing that. And then whenever they get to the girls, they find out that there was never any girls, and they were actually set up by this corrupt general to kill them in the line of duty, so just to basically cover his tracks, because they were on.
I'm sorry, Nate, I didn't want to interrupt you there. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. At the very end of the movie, the Navy SEAL team comes back together because during the movie, you find out that this main antagonist, this corrupt general, was actually Bill Heyman, who is the current UFC, fictional, not right now, but he's the current UFC fight promoter. And he's also running sex trafficking rings at the LA ports. And so the Navy SEAL team, throughout the movie, you see Michael kind of doing his investigation, trying to find out. But then you learn that the Navy SEAL team went dark after that mission because Michael was able to save them. Because Michael is also an unwanted individual. And at the very end, they come together. They try to take down the big bad. They save the girls. And it's high stakes, bro. High stakes.
I love it, man. I love it. This is the type of film, an action film, that has the potential to do very well at the box office, as I've stated a number of times. Films like, and it's very similar to Black and Blue with Tyrese Gibson, who was in the Fast and the Furious films. That was a $12 million budget that turned into a $22 million profit. Upgrade had a $3 million budget that turned into a $17 million profit. I remember that film, Upgrade. I never did see it, but I do remember when it came out. And the bottom line is, the long and the short of it is, Nicholas, the chances of your film turning a nice profit margin look pretty good.
Oh, well, even without name talent attached, our financial projections are already doubling the budget. So, and that's a best case scenario. But as soon as we get one name talent attached, and of course, that's going to skyrocket. We already have some names attached. I've already said one of them, Glenn Morshower. Another one is Kevin Sorbo. Glenn is a lead, but Kevin is not. Kevin's a supporting. We have a WWE superstar who's attached. His name is Thaddeus Bullard, a.k.a. Titus O'Neil in the WWE. He's been wanting to make the crossover into film, and my manager is his agent, and so we got that connection that way. And then we have another named Paul Logan Paul, the internet guy, not that guy, Paul Logan, who has actually been in film for a while. He's done, I think, about 95 different films. He even produced and wrote his own film called The Horde that did really well. So, yeah.
Mike Patterson says, very exciting and crazy potential to show folks the spiritual warfare up close and personal and to help preach the true gospel to the unsaved. God takes care of the rest. And there's no question about that, Mike. I mean, you really look at how things have been unfolding for you, Nicholas, as you've been going through the process of this. It's you can see where God's showing up. Like,
Agreed.
God keeps showing up. Because the only thing that he wants you to do is to move forward. And if you do that, he's gonna bring you through it.
Agreed.
It's no question about it. That was a great statement, Mike. And I can see it as you were talking about it, Nicholas. Some of these things, like you just mentioned a moment ago about the world. Would you say the world writing champion of some sort? He's a
WGA. WGA is the union for writers.
Okay.
He's an award-winning WGA writer. His film came out in 2008. It had some pretty good stars attached to it. But yeah, he's won awards, and he also teaches at Katy Conservatory, and basically what he does. And he just kind of came in as a divine intervention and divine appointment is what I would say. He came in and he saw that he's a believer, and loved the story. When he gave us our coverage and he scored our film at the very beginning, it did not get a good score, but the positive things he said was, Nick, you've got a great story, you've got great characters. We just have to polish this. And I'm like, okay, so
let me ask you this, Nicholas, because you guys are still assembling the cast and so forth. I don't know. Have you guys approached, or has there been any mention of Vince Vaughn for this film?
We were going through another guy that was we were looking at becoming EP, but we had to part ways with him because of conflict of interest. But he did have a semi connection to Vince Vaughn. I like Vince Vaughn, and he would be a good role for Michael. But we have other people that we're going to go after. We've talked to a lot of stars, but they're all kind of prevailing opinion is come at us when you have money. And I'm like, okay. I mean, and that's fine. Like I would much rather come at them and just approve funds and say, let's talk, let's negotiate. And even with one of the guys that we're going after, he's a pretty big name. I'm not going to say any names that way, just, it doesn't have any kind of conflict of interest. But when it comes to this guy, he's pretty big. He's very bankable. And I have been trying to get to him because he was our original vision for the role of Michael. But a casting director told us, you're probably going to have to come at him with about a 1.5 million starts negotiation. And she said, you're not going to pay that, but that's where you need to start. I'm like, okay. So, which is fine. We were negotiating with Michael Bay. He was wanting $8 million by himself. And all of my execs were like, Nick, that's worth the budget increase because you'll have your pick of distribution with a name like Michael Bay.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So any kind of name that's that big, it doesn't matter what you negotiate. You want to get it as low as possible. But, in the budget right now, we have a $2 million buyout budgeted in for any kind of name talent. So actual production's only about $8.6 million.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Nicholas Rice, who is the writer, producer, and is also lead actor in the film Preemptive Strike. Which they are really right now needing funding, and if fans would like to assist in the funding of your project, how could they do that, Nicholas?
If you want to assist, like the way the investment strategy is for this film is more of a share base. So we have 50 shares available in the film that are about 90K a piece. And so if you buy one share at 90K, then you get 1% on the back end, but you also get 120% return on your money. So if you invest 90K, you get that one share. Some money starts flowing, you get 120% up front. And then for the life of the film, you get 1% on the ROIs. ROIs being return on investment. And then there's a 50 shares available, so that equals about 4.5 million. We already have our debt financing security, Bond Media Capital, and they would take care of the rest. But they're just like a bank, but they're a bank for film, so they lend against collateral, and so we have to have that 4.5 million of equity in place for them to be able to lend against. If you know anybody, like say someone listening right now, and they know someone that is connected to someone that knows money, or they have the money themselves, then obviously you would get the EP credit. If you're the investor yourself, then you would get that return. If you know someone who has money and you connect me to that person, then you get producer credit and you get a percentage of what you secure or what you help us secure.
Okay, so awesome. Mike Patterson says, if I could get a one-liner and choreograph fight scene in this, man, I want to be a part.
Let's talk, Michael.
Hey, man, look, Mike is a martial arts specialist. I mean, the guy's fit, strong guy, great actor. I mean, he would be perfect for this film. Have you guys ever met each other, Nicholas?
I don't think so. I'm about to look him up on IMDb while I'm talking to you.
Well, after the show, I'm gonna hook you up with Mike, give you some information how you can hook up with him. He's really a solid dude, great actor. And like I said before, the guy is a martial arts specialist, so he knows how to handle himself out there. Let me say this now, and ladies and gentlemen, please, if you have any way of assisting Nicholas Rice with the funding for Preemptive Strike, please, if you got all the information, and I'll try to get some more info and share it with folks out there, Nicholas. But please help them out with this because we need more solid content like this coming from a faith-based perspective. And as I say that, Nicholas, I wanted to ask you if there's anything in your mind that you think regarding faith-based content that needs to be improved upon, created, and in the way that it is presented in film. Do you see any need for any particular improvements?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a pastor's kid, and I was a worship leader in the church for about 16 years. And I know why Christians don't go to the church, or I'm sorry, don't go to the movie theater. In certain aspects, they don't go to the movie theater because of certain things that people, and if it's rated R, they always have to look it up or whatever. I get it. But what Christian cinema probably needs to change is just their production value. All the content that they're putting out is great, but you have to raise the stakes. You have to show that struggle. And you also have to show that even though I pray for something, like I'm praying for, I know God has favor on this project because you've seen it, I've seen it. I'm praying for specific things to happen at specific times, but when they don't happen, it's not my job to get mad at God. His timing's not mine.
Right.
And so to show that kind of struggle instead of always showing how, everything comes through in cinema, like when it comes to when someone prays and they get it, I think that's kind of sending a false image of what God actually is. Because when you pray for something, you ask for something in Jesus' name. Yes, it says he will give it to you, but it doesn't mean he's going to give it to you right away. And sometimes he doesn't give you what you ask for in the way you ask for it. It's something that we just need to change, but overall production value needs to go up. Stop writing it as a preachy faith-based film. Write some grit in there, man. The stakes need to be raised. You need to see the struggle in people, because I've met believers that you just didn't think would be a believer, but they love Jesus, and they can quote scripture to you left and right, and they rest in the love and grace of God through Jesus Christ. And so that's what needs to change, in my personal opinion. And that's what we're trying to change. I love movies. In the great words of Keanu Reeves, I love movies. I love watching them. I love making them. Like, I love movies. But there's also stuff that I know that I've seen in a whole of an audience where they will go to the theater 47 times to watch one movie. And so you take that, equation of whatever that movie did to be successful, put it into what we did, like an underlying faith-based theme. I mean, we took the Avengers, we took Act of Valor, and we took Rocky IV, some of the most successful movies out there. And we made that equation and inputted it into our film.
Yes.
And so I'm a firm believer that this movie could be the highest grossing movie of all time. Absolutely.
Yes, and I love what you said there about the content needing to be more real. In other words, and it does. We kind of live in a fantasy world as Christians. It's like Christians love to say the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. Yes.
Yeah.
But you didn't pay the light bill. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You didn't pay the light bill, man. Come on.
Exactly.
The devil was at a New England Patriots game helping Bill Belichick cheat again, so he wasn't.
I love that.
No,
I love that.
So we just got to be more realistic, man, about what's happening around us. It's just a bottom line. Nicholas, you've been acting for a while now. I wondered, what is the biggest thing about the craft of acting that you have learned over the years that has made you a better actor?
Honestly, I think I said it earlier, when it comes to just stripping all self and becoming another character is one of the best forms of humility, or coming into humility, because, man, it's easy to get prideful. When I learned I was a very prideful man, and I have to make that conscious decision to humble myself on a moment-to-moment basis, it also makes you very aware of everyone else's pride. It's kind of a pros and cons type of situation. But you can also see, like, I did a big questionnaire for my book before we published, because I wanted to get more of an insight from everybody else. And I remember asking people, on a scale of, or when was the last time you had a prideful situation like this? And this was a leader of a church. Like, he was one of the associate pastors. He's like, well, I don't remember ever being in a prideful situation like this, but, thank the Lord I've never been in that prideful situation. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you've never succumbed to your own. That your whole statement itself is prideful. But
yeah.
And then there's another pastor who I thought would be an extremely prideful person, but the way he answered the question was so humbling, or I would even say humiliating. But there was a question of, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being humble and 10 being the most prideful, where would you put yourself?
Yeah.
And he didn't answer the question, but his simple answer was, I think the lower your number, the more pride you have. And I'm like, that's really good. And it was those questions came from, like, all sides of, and there was one guy that I asked all these questions, and he answered them so honestly and so humbling. And at the very end, he's like, well, now that I'm, my eyes are full of tears, I'll talk to you later, Nick. And he's an old friend of mine, but all the questions were very like, oh, I don't want to answer these questions because it would be, into it, and so his answers did make it into the book. But I didn't use any names, I just used them as examples. But it was an eye-opening experience to go through all that. But that's something that I've noticed in act is it is one of the most humbling experiences that I'll ever come across, because not only do you have to act in front of people, but you act in front of the camera, and you have to be someone else. And so it means you have to step out of your own perspective and into someone else's and understand that. Yeah. Deliver that. Like, it's such a great form of humility, man.
It is. And humility is something that, begins with honesty. I have a show I do with comedians, and we've been doing Mark chapter 4 on breaking down the 4 walls is the title of the show. We're talking about how Judas Iscariot and Peter, first Judas betrayed, and then Peter denied. There came that moment where they, these guys came out of nowhere, led by Judas Iscariot, and they abducted Christ, and all of the brothers rolled out.
Yeah.
They all ran, And we were kind of thinking about it. It's like, you know what? I'd probably run too.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I'm really honest with myself, I'm like, yo, did you see the size of that machete?
Yeah.
It's deuces time, man. So I mean, we it's all about the deuces. So I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, we would probably do a lot of things that we kind of look down upon.
Yeah.
Characters in the Bible, what they did. You know, it's like, yeah, well, you know, I mean, I might have done worse. You know, we don't know what we would do, Nicholas, until we're in it.
Exactly.
We just don't know. So that prejudgmental stuff, man, you know, you got to throw that out of the window. And it begins with honesty. It's like, yo, man, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just trying to. This is not a good person to quote, but as Joe Namath once said, he said, "Hey, man, I'm just trying to get by."
Hey,
so
he said it
at the end of the day, you know. So, but Nicholas, I appreciate you answering that question. I want to ask you one last one. What kind of advice can you leave with young actors and actresses out there, particularly in the faith-based world, that are thinking about making a career in this industry?
Don't be afraid of doing non-faith-based work. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of cussing on screen. I mean, have your boundaries. Have your lines you won't cross. Like I'll kiss somebody on set, but I'm not going to go any further than that. But be willing to get out of your comfort zone, and you can still have your boundaries. I have to remind myself that these, single cuss words are just words. Yeah. If you're not aiming them at anybody, biblically, you're fine.
Yes.
And so I don't talk like that in my normal day to day. One of my friends, whenever I was going into the industry, and I was having my first interview with my first agent, I was really just distraught about how am I going to be an actor, and if I have to be the villain, and the worst villain I can think of that's written in cinema right now is the Joker. How can I play the Joker? Like how am I going to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And my friend of mine, he's one of those that he doesn't talk, but when he does, you shut up and listen. And so he just chimed in. He kind of sat there. He's like, Nick, I think because of your walk with Christ, you'll be able to do it easier than others. And I was like, that because it's a separation of character and self. And we think about playing those villains like Heath Ledger did, and it ultimately took his life because he was having nightmares about the Joker because he was so encompassed in the role.
That's right.
But having a relationship with Christ, I never have to worry about that. And I've been through situations like that, and it's been great. I actually enjoy playing the villain. Like it's a humbling experience because the first short film that I did, I was this squad leader of this squad, military squad, that went around, and we basically went around and killed these refugees that were hunkered down in the woods. We just them. And I didn't have to actually point the gun at anybody or anything like that. I just had to give a face to the camera, this. All I had to do was this. That's all I had to do. And I'm looking at dead bodies. Yeah. And so, and it was like, I can act cocky all day long. That's a natural thing for most people. But if I had to give advice, I know this is long-winded, but give advice like, don't be afraid. Have your boundaries, but don't be afraid to go out, because those are the sets that you need to be on. Yeah. You need to be on those sets, just Christ. Like, you have to be on those sets. And I love those sets. Yeah. And No,
I was just going to add to that, Nick, that, you're right. I mean, we have an advantage over the world when we dive into dark subject matter as people of Christ, because we, first of all, know that this is we're about to get into a spiritual warfare situation, and we know how to fight in the spirit. Right. We know how to pray those demons off of us. We know how to bathe in the blood of Christ in prayer. And, we know what to do and what we're about to do. So we know where that sanctuary of safety is, and we go there. And we get in and out of these situations where the world doesn't, i.e. Heath Ledger, great actor, but he didn't understand that he was getting into a spiritual battle that he was unfamiliar with. And unfortunately, he lost that battle because it's not a game. if you look at what Mel Gibson did with The Passion of the Christ, and I often say this about Mel Gibson, and I still say it, I love the fact that he dove into something that Hollywood despises. And I mean, he threw all the money at it and everything. I mean, Passion of the Christ is probably, in my opinion, I would say, the greatest faith-based film I've ever seen. I mean, it had everything.
Rated R.
And rated R, and it had everything. And but what Mel Gibson didn't understand, Nicholas, was the spiritual warfare that he was about to encounter. And if you look at his life, I mean, it's turned upside down ever since he did that film. Mel Gibson is still trying to find his way because of what he's a victim now of harsh, real, violent spiritual warfare. And I always say, man, we got to pray for Mel Gibson. We just got to pray that man up.
Agreed.
And bottom line, because he needs salvation. I don't think that Mel is saved. I can't speak for him, but if he's not, that's where he's going. He's got to get saved. Christ is going to get Mel, dude. I'll tell you right now, Christ has come to get Mel. There's no question in my mind about that. We just have to pray him up because I don't think he understood what was required to weather that that situation.
But he was given a vision, and he executed that vision. And the great thing about it is he executed that vision to a T of what the four Gospels said.
He did. He absolutely did.
That was perfect. And I tell people in Hollywood, I want to tell people in Hollywood all the time, I was like, take stories of the Bible and do that.
Yeah.
Like, you'll bank. Like, that was a $25 million budget for The Passion. For years, I would say almost a decade, it was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time at $600 million.
Oh, my goodness.
The only thing that beat it was Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, look, there's your template right there for the faith-based industry.
Agreed.
There's your template.
Because they need to stop doing it like they did Exodus, like they did Moses. Like, stop taking your own creative control and changing Scripture. Like, keep Scripture the same. Scripture does not explain everything to a T, so you have some creative liberty.
Yeah.
But, one of the biggest examples I like to go back to is Prince of Egypt. Oh, I love that movie, man.
That's a great film.
That's a heart-wrenching film. I love it. There's still some stuff in that wasn't true. Like, he didn't come off the mountaintop with his white face and white beard. He didn't come off that way. They didn't show the rebellion of the people while he was on the mountain. They didn't show all that. But that wasn't the story they were trying to tell. They were trying to tell a story of the Hebrews coming out of Egypt, and they did a great job with that.
They did.
They did. But yeah, it's something that needs to change. I agree. The Passion is definitely an example of that. Here's what I will say about advice to actors again is don't be afraid to write your own ticket.
Yeah.
Like one producer that I'm in contact with, he just loves what I'm trying to do because I got tired of people saying no. Like, I would always make it to the final round of these movies and these TV shows, but they would ultimately choose somebody else. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'll just write my own. And I did.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And Nick, that's where I am with it now. I mean, from a professional standpoint, sometimes you just have to take the bull by the horns and write your own ticket, pave your own way. And God gives you these things. Like I'm planning on doing a comedy special, my own comedy special, creating it, doing it on my own early next year. And again, that script that I was telling you about that I haven't had the guts to put pen to paper on yet. Man, I'm going to do that. I have the idea. It's overwhelming to take on something like that, but God gave me the idea for a reason.
Oh yeah,
He gave me the idea for a reason. And
Absolutely.
You just have to trust him. Just make that step, and he will. And Michael Patterson alluded to this earlier. He will do the rest.
He will.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Nicholas Rice, who is an actor, also writer and producer, who has a film coming out very soon. We pray very soon, called Preemptive Strike. And so watch. If you're coming in on the tail end of this, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I missed it." Nah, it's okay. Because tomorrow about midday on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV, you can watch the whole thing again. And during that time frame, you can hear Nicholas give you options or avenues and/or/ways that you can contribute financially to the funding of Preemptive Strike. This is a great film that he's embarking upon, and it needs to be made without, believe you me, it needs to be made. Now, if you have enjoyed our conversation and you're like, those guys are pretty cool, well, just like it and share it and subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy Channel and any social media engine that Nicholas Rice is a part of. By the way, Nick, how can fans follow you on social media or by website?
So my social media, Instagram and Twitter is at the Nicholas Rice, CHOLAS, and with the THE in the front of it. The Nicholas Rice on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook, you can just find me by my name, Nicholas Rice. Should have a picture of me in a detective outfit as a Chicago detective. That was one of my character shots. And if you want to find me on YouTube, it's my full name, Nicholas Andrew Rice, and TikTok is my full name, Nicholas Andrew Rice.
All right. Sounds good. And ladies and gentlemen, stick around later on today at 5 p.m. We're going to be talking with sports enthusiast Antoine Real Stewart as we break down Sunday's games from the NFL yesterday. There's going to be a lot to talk about there. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the games yesterday, but it was another crazy Sunday in the NFL, Nick.
I'm more of a college guy, but yeah, I did watch my teams yesterday on Sunday. So I think 2 of my teams lost and 2 of my teams won. So I kind of broke even.
There you go. I hear you, man. Well, Nicholas Rice on the Maurice Brown Show. Nick, hang out afterwards. I wanted to share some information with you after the show. But thank you so much for being on the Maurice Brown Show. May the peace of Jesus Christ be with you and your family, brother. God bless you.
You as well, man. Thank you.